This is CBS 11 News at 5. Not just what happens, what matters.
Tonight, a live interview with Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. We'll get her reaction to what happened in the legislature now that lawmakers are going home. Plus, remembering the victims of drunk driving. Moms with close ties to this problem let us know how Anchorage measures up on fighting DUIs. And another Dr. Phil controversy. Now his show's getting involved in the case of the teenage girl fight caught on tape.
And the sunshine was nice while it lasted, at least to start the weekend, but those clouds are moving in just as scheduled, and it's likely we could see a few snow showers moving back in as well. I'll have the details coming up.
Tonight, it's over. The 25th legislative session has wrapped up with some surprising last-minute results. We're going to break it all down for you right now, too, including how the multi-billion-dollar budget battle ended and what it means for each and every Alaskan. And coming up in a live interview, Governor Sarah Palin will tell us what she thinks about the session and if her veto pen is ready to go. Plus, what major laws and programs lawmakers say they simply didn't have time to deal with. We begin tonight with a major transportation funding bill that passed but does not guarantee more money for state roads. House Bill 314 will allow Alaskans to vote on general obligation transportation bonds. The bonds would provide more than $315 million for 28 transportation projects around Alaska. That would include $10 million more for the Anchorage port expansion, $22 million for Anchorage roads, and $20 million for emergency bridge repair. In all, it works out to about $24 million a year for the next 20 years, but only if voters approve.
Really give them a voice in some road projects that couldn't get in the budget because of the size. I mean, I think a lot of us began to be concerned that the capital budget was growing too large, that we should maybe spread some of the spending out over a few years, and that's what bonds allow you to do.
Now, if the governor signs the general obligation bond bill, it will go to a statewide vote in November. Also awaiting the governor's signature is a record high $11.2 billion operating budget. This is the one that pays for the rent on state offices and generally makes sure the government keeps running. The budget this year was 20% larger than this year's plan, and some lawmakers worry the state cannot afford it. At over $5 billion, education is one of the big ticket items in this budget, too. And after a back-and-forth battle between the governor and lawmakers, the state's capital budget was pushed through. The capital budget also looks to spend more money than this year's. It's chock full of projects to fill potholes, fix roofs, and provides money to build everything from new schools to ball fields. Now, throughout the session, the governor has been very vocal about cutting unnecessary spending, and we want to get her take on how this session went. She's standing by tonight with CBS 11's Andrea Gusty, live at the state capitol. Andrea?
Well, Matt, this year's legislative session just wrapped up a few short hours ago, and during the shortened session, lawmakers have passed record budgets, forward funding for education, new ethics laws, and above all, they've saved $5 billion for the future. Now, here to put it all in perspective with us is Governor Sarah Palin, and tell me, what do you think is the most important thing that got passed this year?
Well, you know, we start from the top, and 90-day session, and lawmakers wrapped up within that mandated time that the voters said last go around. You know, they expected a 90-day session, and lawmakers did it. That was success right there. And you named a couple of the other ones that have been real important, including municipal revenue sharing, though, that has passed. That's going to be very helpful for our local communities to get to address some of the rising costs within their own communities of operations and of some projects. It's only right that the state trickles down the state's wealth, that share of revenue derived from our resource development. Local communities get to prioritize some dollars for their projects now.
And of course, there has been so much talk about how high these budgets are. Can we expect some vetoes?
Got to expect vetoes. The budget is huge. It's unsustainable. Both operating and capital budgets are too high. So now our job begins. You know, we head back to the Anchorage office and we'll start scrutinizing and scouring each line item in operations and in capital, and we'll do what's right for Alaskans. We will create, from the tools that we have been given now by lawmakers, a sustainable and sensible and responsible budget.
Of course, and then a lot of talk as well about the shortened 90-day session. So much stuff to do, so little time to do it. Was it successful?
It was very successful, and I think the 90 days worked well. You know, it really got everybody on their toes right out of the chute, working hard, working quickly, and still responsible measures had been taken, and I think the 90 days certainly was a success.
Well, Governor Palin, thank you so much. And we will have much more on this 90-day session and the bills that made it through and some of the bills that didn't. And that's all coming up tonight at 10. For now, live at the Capitol, I'm Andrea Gusty, CBS 11 News.
All right, thanks so much, Andrea. This was the shortest legislative session since 1968, which has the governor pretty happy tonight. Still, it wrapped up today with both the State House and Senate calling it the most accomplished in recent history. This session, the legislature approved funding schools years in advance rather than just 1 year at a time. They also saved a record $5 billion in the constitutional budget reserve. And though some bills like funding for children's health insurance didn't make it through, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are claiming victory this year.
I realize after session's over, I look back and I go, we did some good things. We did some things I didn't like, but we probably did some good things. And I think overall this is, we're going down the road in a good direction.
We took the task on of working not on Republican issues, not on Democratic issues, but on Alaskan issues. And I think that was the key to the success of our group.
Lawmakers are now looking forward to the upcoming gas pipeline special session, which is set to convene in about a month. Well, two major crime bills also passed. One bill adds harsher punishments for sex offenders who don't register with the state. It also targets those who profit off bootlegging alcohol to dry villages. Even pawn shops will have to change the way they do business under this new measure. Shops in big cities must keep an electronic record of all transactions to help police track down potentially stolen property. The other bill passed goes after those with repeat assault convictions. A person convicted of a third misdemeanor assault within 10 years would be subject to a Class C felony sentence. Also passed legislation aimed at attracting more movie makers to the state. So many blockbuster plot lines involve Alaska, you know. Well, now lawmakers hope new incentives will get studios to actually do their filming here. The bill would grant state corporate income tax breaks of 30% or more. As you heard, some lawmakers say that certain legislation didn't have enough time to be debated and get passed. Well, one of the big bills that didn't make the cut was additional funding for the Denali Kid Care program. Also not finished was the universal health care bill, which passed two Senate committees but didn't make it onto the Senate floor. And lawmakers are not giving Alaskans an energy rebate this year. The legislature decided instead to fund an energy fund and weatherization program for low-income residents. Well, tonight at 10, we're going to continue our Capitol coverage. We're going to focus on the fact that it was just limited to 90 days this year. Was that deadline imposed by voters a good thing? Governor Palin says so, says it was a good thing, but some are actually saying that citizen voices have been left out of this process because it was so short, and we're going to find out why they're saying that tonight at 10. Of course, you can also find our Capitol coverage anytime at KTVA.com. A big announcement from BP today. It's got plans, more plans for Prudhoe Bay. We're going to find out what those are in a moment. Plus, drunk driving. It's a crime that's hurt a lot of families here in Alaska. We're going to hear from some moms about whether enough is being done to combat DUIs when your Sunday edition of CBS 11 News at 5 continues.